Welcome to the Chicago Sully Show. I'm your host, Sully. In this episode 0, really just want to talk through a little bit about myself, my journey as a Chicago sports fan, and why I am creating this podcast. So you might have seen me with my TikTok or Instagram running my daily miles. For context, I'm running a mile every day until a Chicago sports team wins championship. As of today, Sunday, November 23rd, Monday, 5:83. So hopefully not too far long to go. Fingers crossed. But without further ado, let's get into it. For those who don't know me, my name is John Sullivan from Crystal Lake, Illinois. Went to University of Illinois down in Urbana-Champaign. Now I'm 26 years old, living in Gold Coast here in Chicago, and it's the best city in the world. I love it. So grew up a massive Chicago sports fan. Some of my favorite memories growing up as a kid were going to Cubs and Blackhawks games with my dad or my mom. I'm also going to Bears games and Bulls games, although still have PTSD from a few games featuring Aaron Rodgers and LeBron James there. But nonetheless, really shaped me into who I am today as a person. Extremely blessed for those experiences and still a diehard fan. Watch every Bears game, watch every Cubs game, Bulls and Blackhawks, catch most of them when I can. And again, I'm a classic Chicago sports fan. Also enjoy keeping up with the fire in the sky. The White Sox they're fine. They're all right. Actually, they'll be better, but we'll talk more about that down the road. And as you've seen, I'm running a mile every day. So I've really stayed dedicated there. And some of my favorite Chicago sporting events I've attended in person were Game 6 of the 2016 NLCS, Cubs-Dodgers, when they clinched a pennant at home. I was also at the first World Series game at Wrigley Field since 1945 with my dad. Although that was a loss, still to have that experience with him is something I'll never forget. We should have those seats at our home because in the 100 level at Wrigley Field, they did renovations after the 2016 season. So my dad had the opportunity to buy those seats that we sat in. I'll keep those for the rest of my life. I also went to 3 Stanley Cup final games for the Blackhawks with my mom. 2010 and 2013 went to game 1. So in 2013, that triple overtime winner where Andrew Shaw won it. And in 2015, went to game 5 in Tampa, which is a decisive game right before the Blackhawks came back to the United Center and won it in 6. I was also at the Bears-Packers NFC title game where Rodgers won his only Super Bowl because of that year. And I was also at the game where Derrick Rose tore his ACL for the first time. So I've seen all the highs, seen all the lows, and again, it's really shaped to who I am as a person today. So I also love going to concerts. So I've been to Lollapalooza every day for 4 days since 2016. This is year 10 for me, so I did go one day in 2015. So that was my favorite weekend of the year. Always a great experience, whether if it's seeing artists I love, checking out new artists, the people watching, just enjoying a cold beverage in the best city in the world, enjoying the skyline. Just nothing beats it. And for concerts, some of my favorite venues in the city are Salt Shed and Thalia Hall in Pilsen. Both are incredible, highly recommend. And another fun fact about me, I also have type 1 diabetes. So I was diagnosed back in 2008, and oftentimes it was something where I don't say embarrassed about, but something I really just never spoke about. One memory that will be ingrained in my mind is in 6th grade, and for context, I was a larger kid growing up. In health class, they were explaining what diabetes was. They explained what type 2 was, not type 1. Or type 1, genetic, just kind of SOL, versus type 2, not most experienced there. We'll leave that for a different day. But the way they're describing type 2, and me being a heavier kid, they made that the assumption that that's what I had. And it was a very, after that, I just really wasn't proud of what it was, even though it shaped me to the person I am today. So this year, I've really got involved with the diabetic community in 3 different ways. First, I ran the marathon for the Chicago Diabetes Project, raised over $9,000 in my charity donations for the marathon. Also hosted an event through them, and this I will talk about way more in detail. I'm creating this little page called Cheers for a Cure. So essentially working with a bar, Yaxie's, a little shirt there. They are the best. My dad's been taking me there for 2 decades, and we know that again, it's the best bar, best wings in the city. If you ever go to a Cub game, Yoxie's the place to be. Not sponsored by them, but again, they're the best nonetheless. So I'll give them the free time any day. But yeah, host a charity event there. Together, we were able to raise $4,500, and we had 78 people attend by wristbands for a Bears watch party. So it was a Bears Vikings game last week, and it's 2 hours, all you can eat, wings and pizza, all you can drink, domestic drafts or wells. It's $45 a head, which again, we also had raffle items, raffled off Bears tickets, Cubs tickets, Bulls tickets, Hawks tickets. That again, the Oxys and the sponsors, shout out Molson Coors, they were generous enough to provide raffle items as well. So it was a huge success for our first event. Definitely more to come in the future. But it's long story short, super involved in the Chicago Diabetes Project there. I'm also involved in the Breakthrough Community's Young Leaders Committee. Started to be involved in different events, volunteer, again, show up and support however I can there. And I also volunteered at a camp in Ohio back in July with 2 family friends. So for context there, that the location the camp was held is actually where insulin was invented for humans. So that was the oldest diabetes camp in the world. So for me to spend my time there, volunteer, and to give back and again connect with other diabetics, both the counselors and the staff, as well as again the attendees. That was a experience I was very blessed to experience. Something I'll never forget as well. It was just magical there. But for me, my big goal moving forward is to continue raising money for the Chicago Diabetes Project, continuing to partner with the Oxys, continuing to host events, and really just seeing where that space takes me. Again, we'll talk more about that down the road, but overall, trying to make a positive impact in the community, doing good things, making a difference, and overall just, again, bettering myself in several different ways. So a little bit about my background. Used to work in sports, actually. So in college, I was actually president of our student sections my senior year. So Illini Pride oversees Orange Crush for basketball, Black Eye for football, and some of my event planning there helped me with the charity event I posted last week. And probably one of the very, very few Illinois fans who likes our football team more than our basketball team. So again, love the Illini there. And was also a marketing assistant for our athletic department. The privilege of having that experience, as well as being a viceroy for Barstool Sports. So viceroy is like account manager. I'd run our Barstool Illini Twitter and Instagram. Did it with a buddy, and that was an incredible experience. Obviously, the social media experience helped me in my Chicago Sully running account now. And again, that's one of those experiences I'll always cherish. I was also a security service ambassador for the Cubs. So I was not security guard. Again, I wore a red shirt, took away the cup snakes. I babysit drunk adults. That was such a fun job, being able to spend my summers getting paid to watch Cubs baseball. It's just the greatest job ever. One of my favorite highlights was I took away Danny Conrad, who's a Barstool employee, used to be a Barstool intern, took away his cup snake in the bleachers, and Big Cat quote tweeted one of their videos saying credit to that security guard. I think looking back, maybe it was a little bit too dedicated to my craft, but still getting that support, getting that tweet from him, and for them to be in my section and to DM with him a few times after. Again, he's a phenomenal person, super kind. Just having that experience is something that I'll always cherish. And again, I was also a field guard in 2022 for a few months. So sitting on Wrigley Field watching the Cubs play baseball was magical. So that was one of those things I always cherish. And now I'm not working in sports, pivot a little bit. That's more of a conversation for later, but again, that's my journey. So, diehard Chicago sports fan. And again, now we're going to go into why exactly I created this podcast. Leaning into why I'm creating this podcast, a few different reasons. I think first, really want to create an outlet to talk about Chicago sports. Now, my running videos every 30-second snippet a day, it's great, but for me to be able to have this outlet to talk more in detail about Chicago sports and having a true viewpoint from a fan, where I'm not backed by a corporation, where I'm not necessarily having penciled in to say certain things or have certain viewpoints. Be able to have a true, authentic perspective and just really share my thoughts and again, just be open about it. And from there, having guests on to talk about Chicago sports. And hopefully down the line, like hosting events where we're building this community of Chicago sports fans, we can meet up before games at a bar, or let's say we're outside the field, we're at Yaxie's pregame, doing something like that. Or if we're out going to a Black Horse Bulls game, we meet up at Billy Goat Tavern or inside the event at FanDuel. Like, to be able to connect with other Chicago sports fans, be able to share my feedback here, and also using this to kind of help grow that Chicago Sully platform. And the running videos are great, but for me, be able to kind of see where I can go with this is something I'm really excited to see what happens down the line. And from here is like, again, for me, I want this to be as authentic as possible. Whether it's just me sitting at a bar on Well Street, having an authentic, again, having a real conversation about Chicago sports, to being so emotionally invested when it comes in the playoffs. And again, even as we expand more than just Chicago sports, talking about Chicago events, talking about Chicago concerts, sharing some of the highlights of what of the beauty of Chicago really is, whether it be the runs in the Lake Trail, to our lovely neighborhood bars, to so many quirks and so many different things that make Chicago so beautiful and what it is. So for me, just highlighting this great city we live in, it's the best city in the world. And for me, third, as I see myself growing in a few different ways, where growing physically, running every day. And for me, one big initiative I have is to be more active working out, and mentally of building healthier habits, doing good things, and even developing certain skills where for me, like creating this podcast and seeing myself like in the recording here, it's just like very, I won't say daunting, but definitely a new experience for me. So for me to push myself out of my comfort zone in doing this, as well as the production, the recording, the editing, the posting, like how like again I'm creating this brand. It's just like so exciting, and like the endless amount of opportunities. Just being able to share my perspective on Chicago sports, sharing my journey as a fan, and as my running journey continues to go along for hopefully not too long, but again, we'll see. I'm just really excited for what this leads to. So from that point, one other note is with my charity events as well, Cheers for a Cure, being able to use this space to talk about that and how I'm looking to expand upon that. For me, there's just endless amount of opportunities. And for me to have the space to talk about Chicago sports and whatever it leads to down the road, I'm just really excited for. So on that note, what this is going to look like is we're going to start off doing shows 3 days a week. We're going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday to be like a Bears recap, where tomorrow talk about our 8-3 first place Chicago Bears. We can talk about that more in detail, which I'm very much excited for. Also highlight some of the highlights and lowlights from other Chicago sports teams. And then Wednesday, again, a little more in detail within probably the Bulls and Blackhawks specifically. And then as we go into, again, summer, obviously it's a different conversation. The Fridays would be like a Bears game day preview, as well as, again, Chicago sports. And we'll also highlight certain events going on. We'll highlight certain things going on in Chicago. And it's really going to be a free-flowing space. I'm really excited for what's to come here. So on that note, we're just getting started here. The best is still to come. So I really appreciate y'all being here. And again, this is just the beginning. So welcome to the Chicago Sully Show. I'm John Sullivan. Let's get it.